Hey Star Fam, it's Michael from oneskyastrology, and we're going to look at another lunar cycle. This one starts on December 14th, 2020, and includes the Jupiter Saturn conjunction of the winter solstice, December 21st. And man, this shit is bananas. So this might be a little longer video than usual because we're going to take a look at the whole thing all in one frame. I'm going to try and move through this material quickly. Got my coffee. I'm ready. So yeah, buckle up. We're looking at a total solar eclipse in Ophiuchus, which is late Scorpio Ophiuchus. I want to take a look at that. So here we are looking at the heavens, and this is the new moon on December 14th. And as you can see, it's in constellation Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus and Scorpio have an interesting relationship. I read Scorpio Ophiuchus as sort of one sign, although the energies of the stars of Ophiuchus do become significant. Without saying too much about that, I do want to say that this sun and moon is happening right in the degree of Shaula, the tail of the scorpion, the stinger, and also in the degree of Ras al-Hag, the head of the serpent bearer, or the head of the snake charmer is the literal translation from Arabic. So when I talk about Ophiuchus, what we're looking at is a constellation group here, Scorpio Ophiuchus, which is really about transformation, about alchemical transformation, mystical, occult transformation, and it's about taking the scorpion of taking the poison of the scorpion and turning it into medicine. Ophiuchus was Asclepius. The serpent bearer is deeply associated with medicine, inner healing, doing shadow work, becoming uncomfortable, and going into that territory of discomfort to claim our power that's been lost there. This is sort of the process of Scorpio Ophiuchus. They're both ruled, in my estimation, by Pluto. Pluto is about dichotomy, duality. It's about transformation, metamorphosis, change. So we're going through these stars, going through a process of transformation, turning the poison of the scorpion into the medicine of the serpent bearer. You may notice, if any of you are new to my channel, we're using the actual stars. This is the way it would look if you observed it through a telescope. Let's go to the night sky. And here's Uranus in Eris, and that's actually where Uranus is astronomically. So we're using the signs delineated by the actual constellation boundaries. Here's sign of Pisces matching up with constellation Pisces, and so on the whole way around. And this differs from all mainstream forms of astrology. So we're using the living skies as they actually are. This is called true sidereal or constellational or astronomical astrology. And this is the way the ancients did it. And no, that's all I'm going to say about that, because we have so much to get through today. For more information on how the mainstream zodiac got the way it is today, with everything sort of like misaligned by almost a whole sign in the tropical system, or even in other mainstream forms of astrology, why they use 12 even signs when the constellations are different sizes and the star groups have pretty widely varying ranges. Or if you want to take a look at your own natal chart, your transits, do some other consultation with me, please visit my site, oneskyastrology.com. It's so this one's complex, my friends. This lunar cycle is going to be complex. It's going to be this is a doozy. So let's jump right in. So we've got the moon, sun and moon on the Ras Al Hag Shaula axis, the vertical axis, and we're with the south node here. Where sun and moon are with the south node. So this is going to be a total solar eclipse. And the solar eclipse has the property of catalyzing change, of sort of shaking things up and instigating in a way a new cycle. This eclipse cycle will last about 6 months until the next solar eclipse. And this is really interesting because Jupiter and Saturn have already moved to within 1 degree of each other. And this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is actually more or less the main event, or it's the reason that this lunar cycle is going to be so powerful, closing out a year that's been so powerful, so catalytic of change, and so difficult. The theme right away of this new moon is mastering the poison of the deep unconscious, our any unresolved material around the past, south node, that is lurking below the surface, Scorpio Ophiuchus, of our psyche. We have a chance here to get into that material, to begin to work with it, and to master it. Ras Al Hag, the mastery. Ras Al Hag, the head of the snake charmer, is actually literally the wisdom, representing the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding that allows Asclepius Ophiuchus to master this poisonous creature, the serpent, and to bear it for the benefit of others, to be medicinal, and not to be adversely affected by the idea that this is a poison he's working with, because a poison and a medicine are often just a case of dosage. The difference between them might be just a simple matter of dilution or dosage, and it's in working with our poison, psychologically working with our deepest unresolved material, that we reclaim our lost power and become able to become empowered again. And this is the journey of Scorpio. This is the journey of sort of dark transformation. And if we make the whole journey, if we understand the sidereal mythology and the archetypes at play, and we're making the whole journey, we're actually we're working with Scorpion energy. We're working with the claws, the tail, the poison, the dark side of the psyche, our shadow. And we're working with it constructively. We're not alienating that part of ourselves. We're not projecting it onto others and deciding, I don't like that. We're actually acknowledging, and we're transmuting through the process of acceptance, of self-forgiveness, and through taking the high road, which is going to be a major theme of this lunar cycle, taking the high road of Ras Al Hag, of doing the work that it takes to master ourselves through this difficult time, rather than succumbing to the sting of the scorpion. So the south node has to do with the past. So this is going to bring up themes of the past and the transformation, the Scorpio Ophiuchus transformation that takes place could really affect the way we're thinking and communicating, because Mercury's right here, very close to the south node. And the north node's in Taurus, so all of this is going to be along an axis, part of a process that's actually leading towards stability. It's actually a process of transformation to generate stability. And this is a theme because the last full moon which was a partial eclipse, a penumbral eclipse, not a partial eclipse, a penumbral eclipse, a pseudo eclipse, was the sun was on Antares, Alpha Scorpio, and the moon was on Aldebaran, Alpha Taurus. And we talked last month about the nature of that full moon and the nature of transformation, stirring the pot, stirring it up in order to generate greater stability. So that penumbral eclipse was part of the same Saros cycle that this eclipse is about. So they have the same energetic stamp, the same energetic template. The energy of them is deeply related. And we're going to look, because of this new moon's tendency to color the whole cycle, we're going to look a little closer at that Saros cycle data than we did last month. This Saros cycle started in 1624. So we've been watching this one for about 400 years. Remember that date, 1624. Bernadette Brady says, this series, the Saros series, carries with it a very strong emotional feeling concerning relationships and or money. There could be anger or lust. There is a sense of fatedness, and individuals may find themselves caught up in relationship events which are beyond their control. There could also be a sudden desire to finish a relationship. These emotions may be blocked or checked in some way, leading to a great deal of frustration. The best approach to this eclipse is to avoid rash actions until the issues settle down. So, between last month's full moon, that was November 30th, 2020, and this month's new moon, December 14th, 2020, all of these energies are in play. Anger, lust, sense of fatedness, life moving in its gears, and we're kind of like along for the ride, trying not to get crushed in the mechanism of it all. It's breakup season, and there could be strong emotional feelings concerning money, which is true for so many of us today in 2020, because COVID has destroyed more than one economy, globally speaking. You know, it's interesting. Money is money's the medium of exchange. Even this fiat currency has incredible power to make real change and increase quality of life, create benefit. This is real suffering that we're talking about, and there could be a kind of spike in the feelings, the passions, the anger around that, just like the relationships. So I want to repeat the last sentence that Bernadette Brady offers there, because this is pretty sage. The best approach to this eclipse is to avoid rash actions until the issues settle down. Now that's interesting, because we're already looking at Jupiter and Saturn being very close to each other. We're already within 1 degree, and technically that means that this great conjunction of 2020 has already started. Now it goes exact December 21st. And we'll look at that with the waxing quarter moon, because the waxing quarter moon is also December 21st. So when I look at a new moon, I always look at the dispositor. And the dispositor of this and the stars of Ophiuchus, I do interpret this as Pluto's stars, largely because the stars of Scorpio are so heavily weighted. They're predominant here, even though, as we saw earlier, this is actually happening within the boundaries of constellation Ophiuchus. The stars of Scorpio are very close to the ecliptic and exerting incredible influence. So I don't see it as different than Scorpio. I see it as a deepening, a sort of an added dimension to the sidereal mythology of Scorpio. When we look at Pluto, we do see a semi-sextile that is about half a degree, 0 degrees 32 minutes, and that's a close relationship, and it's a harmonious relationship. So there's some assistance here from Sagittarius, the stars, of opportunity, of optimism, of philosophy, of depth and breadth of analysis. So there is likely to be hope and optimism available to us through what could be a difficult process on several fronts. And with Mercury on the south node in Ophiuchus, you can see they're 14 minutes apart, very close, Mercury. So Mercury, which is basically our left brain logical thinking process and our listening and communication process, Mercury is also functionally being eclipsed here. Mercury with the south node is going to make communication interesting, and the south node is a very automatic influence. This is in Vedic astrology, they call the south node the headless one, Ketu. This is the tail of the dragon. The dragon's been cut, and they're both parts are writhing, and Ketu is the tail of it. And the headless quality of Ketu means that it's just moving on its own. And this has to do with karmic threads that have already been woven. Ketu is the past, and the south node is what we've brought to the past, what we've brought from the past to the present situation. So it's got to play itself out. It's got to play itself out, and in that way, we are likely to be communicating in patterns here that we may wish we had more control of. We might be thinking along lines that we would like more agency, more freedom to step out of, but we might find ourselves in this one kind of trapped in kind of the way we've set this up already through history, through past lifetimes, through forces that are now set in stone and beyond our control. There are a couple aspects that the new moon is making that are worth mentioning, and one is a trine, a nice harmonious trine up to Mars, Eris in Pisces. We're going to take a deeper look at Eris next month because it figures very prominently in the new moon, January 13th new moon that kicks off 2021. For now, all I want to say about Mars, Eris, and Pisces is that Mars tends to be an aggressive, assertive influence, a very confident, a very motivated, drive-oriented, doing influence. It's very, very motion-forward kind of approach to things. Eris is basically involving the need to recognize the shadow side, and is a planet that has a very chaotic effect on whatever it touches. And in the stars of Pisces, we're seeing the peaceful, pacific, spiritual influence here of the transpersonal. And the way these are all combining is to really, really emphasize that quality of shadow work that's indicated by the new moon. And if you want to maximize the potential of this lunar cycle, I would say really get interested in doing some shadow work, what goes by the general umbrella shadow work. Look it up. I want to recommend Sultram Alione's Feeding Your Demons. I'm going to put that on the screen so that you can see in print this book. It's the best manual that I've come across, just functional manual for doing meaningful, catalytic, change-inducing, and creating shadow work. That being said, there's also a square to Neptune in Aquarius. And Neptune squares tend to have a confusing quality. They tend to impart a kind of cloudiness to the thinking where we can become idealistic, We can become believing what we want to believe, where we can become a little escapist. So where the Mars-Eris influence ends up with the trine, especially accentuating this need to go deep, to explore, to resolve, to forgive, to change, to heal, to move on, in order to transform. The Neptune influence might have a quality of leading us away from that, creating blinders or a sort of head in the sand kind of quality in which we would want not to look at that. So be aware. There's nothing to do about it except to be aware. And in these situations, knowing is way more than half the battle. And I hope that's why you're watching, to know the energies at play, the energies that we're dealing with. With a North Node in Taurus and the full moon taking place in the stars of Gemini, there's going to be a real emphasis here on clarifying values, Taurus, and clarifying truth and falsehood. And anytime you have the Sagittarius Gemini axis activated, like we'll have for the full moon, you've got the theme of truth and falsehood, discerning what's true. Truth is Sagittarius's territory, and Gemini is information, and Gemini is the twins. You've got truth and falsehood, and Sagittarius is usually interested in the truth of things. Gemini has a little bit of a duplicitous quality. It can function with truth or falsehood, for better or worse. And the theme is going to be around clarifying that. So that's going to be a sort of issue that you could express in the words taking the high road. You want to take the high road, you have truth and falsehood. The high road is truth. And this is reflecting the Ras Al Hog, Shaula, stellar axis, the axis of longitudinal degree that the sun and moon are in. In that we have a choice here. We have a choice between getting into the poison of Scorpio or taking the high road, choosing to do the difficult inner work of mastering our shadow, resolving our demons, and so on, in order to generate an understanding that has to do with truth, in order, and with the North Node in here in Taurus, in order to generate stable Taurus values, inner values, Taurus, in order that we might have an accurate map or a working compass here to guide us through this stormy territory of eclipse season and of what the great reset, this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, portends. So this is all about making wise choices. And here we have the waxing quarter moon. The sun and Mercury are in Sag. The moon is in Pisces with Chiron. And that's nice. We've got an energy of sort of philosophical truth. We've got an energy of spiritual reality. Chiron is healing, resolving our traumas, making psychological progress. We see this theme echoed throughout. And we've passed the galactic center. Sun and moon have passed the galactic center, and we're in a new phase. We're about 3 days past on 21st December, and you'll notice Jupiter and Saturn 2 degrees apart, which means that about 6 hours earlier, we had the Great Conjunction. And there's a lot of hype about the Great Conjunction in Aquarius, and this is going to be futuristic. And yeah, eventually it will be. Eventually it will be. And that has more to do actually with Uranus, which will be transiting Taurus, where the North Node is, where this eclipse is going. And in a few years' time, you'll see Uranus ingress Taurus, the stars of finance. When Uranus ingressed Eris, the Notre Dame burned. Eris, the fire sign. Uranus, the futuristic, the scientific, the catalyst for change. When Uranus was on Hamal, Alpha, Aries, the head of the ram, a church in Brooklyn, right as it was just moving off exact degree, a church in Brooklyn, old church in it was Manhattan, it was East Village, Manhattan. The church went up in flames, and this Uranus in Aries has an explosive quality. Uranus is a very radical influence. Uranus is kind of a church burner in Aries. And when Uranus hits Taurus, it's going to do radically futuristic, explosive, catalytic things, except in the realm of finance. We're talking about a very futuristic technological influence, and we're talking about Jupiter and Saturn here in Great Reset. Great Reset is what the economists, the world economists, are calling 2020. And it's what a lot of people have associated with Jupiter and Saturn, because Jupiter and Saturn govern cycles of worldly power, cycles of financial power, cycles of expression in the brick and mortar actual structure of society and in the structure of finance. So we have the North Node here, the future, where this is all going in Taurus. And when Uranus gets to Taurus and it ingresses it, I predict you're going to see futuristic and scientifically advanced modes of exchange. I think you'll see a rise in blockchain-based cryptocurrency. I think you'll see the advent of futuristic means of transaction. I think if you think Google Pay and Apple Pay and just waving your thing is a sweet deal, you're probably in for a real treat. And I think you're likely to see eventually the global crisis, the climate crisis, solved by the introduction of a universal basic income. All of these are very Taurian values. The North Node indicates where this is going, and Uranus is going to have a very splashy ingress into Taurus. When Uranus ingressed the water sign of Pisces, there was the Gulf oil spill. It's just, I mean, Uranus shakes shit up. Uranus doesn't care. It's sort of terroristic, and it doesn't care about the casualties. It wants to make the point. It doesn't care about churches burning. It wants the future. It doesn't care about pelicans covered in crude. It wants us to recognize higher truth. It wants us to recognize really what's really happening. Uranus is like, open your eyes to the situation. But it also is a very innovative. Influence. Now, I say all this because the tropical world and the mainstream Western world thinks that this great conjunction here is happening in Aquarius. And that's nice. Neptune's in Aquarius. deluded old Neptune. But the great conjunction is actually happening in the stars of Jupiter and Saturn. What we see here is that it's happening right on the Sagittarius Capricorn boundary. And let's see, Great Reset. Yeah, my friends, check this out. This is what's going on in the actual sky. We've got Jupiter and Saturn, and they're on the very cusp, the exact cusp of Jupiter's stars of Sagittarius and Capricorn, Saturn's stars. So now this is really interesting because, as I said, this happens every 20 years, and it governs economic cycles. It governs cycles of temporal power. This governs how the world works, how how the wheels are greased, how this shit goes down. Jupiter and Saturn are the main. This is an absolutely huge cycle, and I want to take a look at some of the relevant information here, because not only are Jupiter and Saturn together, but I want to call your attention to we've got them in the same longitude. Now, ecliptic longitude is just where on the wheel around they are. So when Saturn's here and faster moving Jupiter comes up, whoop, we got a conjunction, same longitude. Now, many of you know this, but some of you don't. They're going to be in the same latitude too, to within six arc minutes. This is almost right on top of each other. So it's not like they're coming around and they're like, oh, there's a conjunction. No, it's like they're getting the band back together. They're they're joining forces here in a major way. And when we look at this, we actually haven't seen a Jupiter Saturn conjunction this close, where they're actually forming a super planet right on top of each other since 1226. That's right. It's been 800 years since Jupiter and Saturn have done this. So, what happened around 1226? Well, the Mayans were founding their Mesoamerican kingdom in Guatemala. Significant. The Magna Carta was reissued by Henry III of England in 1225. And that's significant. That's actually the foundation of a lot of constitutional law. And yes, I do understand that the Confederation of the Iroquois had much more to do with the United States Constitution than the Magna Carta. I'm not going to get into that now. I am going to say the Magna Carta, very significant structure of power change. England and France made truce in 1227. It's pretty big. But here's the big events coming after 1226. In 1227, Genghis Khan died. Now, for those of you who know your history, Genghis Khan had conquered all of Far East, all of Russian Asia, Turkey. He'd conquered Europe with the help of the Visigoths. He'd conquered Europe to the Rhine. The Celts were like, holy shit, who is this guy? And then he fell over and didn't get up. We'd probably be speaking Mongolian right now if that shift in power hadn't happened. Shortly thereafter, his children, his sort of empire just started to kind of crumble, lost a lot of momentum, but almost conquered Europe to England, to Ireland. Was really close. It was very, 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 very close. So Genghis Khan died. This huge shift in the structure of global power. And in 1229, the Catholic Holy Inquisition began. Yeah, very, very, very holy there. Torturing and killing, basically anyone who disagreed with them, consolidating power, consolidating wealth. Anyone who had significant wealth, they were a witch. Anyone who had significant personal power, insight, wisdom, they were a witch. If you're watching this video, you were a witch. I mean, if we were there again today, like an interest in actually how the heavens worked would have just damned you to torture of various forms, because the church, the Catholic Church, that's how they did that. That's huge. These are two huge things. Genghis Khan dies, and 2 years later, the Catholics are like, "Oh no, we're next." And that seems to be how life goes here. Welcome to Samsara. I said remember 1624, and 1624 is when the Saros cycle that this new moon takes place in started. Now, In 1623, Jupiter and Saturn were close. And in 1623, Jupiter and Saturn weren't as close as they are this year, this solstice, but they were pretty close. They were like almost as close. And in 1621, Plymouth, the colony of Plymouth and the Puritans in America, like that happened. And actually in 1626, Manhattan was purchased. So the beginning of the transfer of power, the beginning of the birth, of America, and the transition of power from indigenous stewardship of the lands to colonial, you could say exploitation, just to be literal, use, from stewardship to use, and exploitation means use. I'm not, not going to make any bones about it. In 1626, Manhattan was purchased for $24 from indigenous America. 1623, that was when Saturn and Jupiter came together very closely in latitude, in ecliptic latitude. And again, in 1226, they were as close as they are this year on the solstice. And they're empowered. Jupiter and Saturn are empowered by being in their own stars. They're not in Aquarius. They're on the cusp. Each one of them is radically more empowered than it would be in the stars of Aquarius. So let's be honest about this. We're going to see big change. So what kind of change? Sag is a very broad, very liberal, very giving, very permissive, very global influence. So we're going to see movement in that way towards globalism. The movement towards liberalism is going to be checked by conservative Capricorn and its tendency to be rigid and authoritarian, structurally, about boundaries, about law, about organization, very conservative. So we have a balance of conservatism and liberalism, which will probably express as a sort of centrism. If anything good comes of this, it'll probably be that we start talking across the aisles again, more so than we have since Saturn passed the galactic center and we entered this phase of kind of, corporate statism. More fascist tendencies in world governments have expressed themselves in that time. That being the case, the galactic center and this expression of Saturn is the expression we're in. And I think we're going to see, if this is governing finance and worldly power, I think we're going to see a consolidation of power, a sort of what the economists are calling a great reset. They're going to turn the economy off and turn it back on again. And it's not going to be the same economy. It's going to get a little update, What will that look like? I don't know. These are internationalists. These are people with a globalist trajectory. The momentum is towards, the momentum has been even expressed verbally by, economists, hundreds of years ago. No, we really want a one world system. We'd really like that. And of course, power always seeks to consolidate itself. All on its own, power seeks to do that. And evolutionarily, intelligent life on Earth has just gone through these stages of being like kind of family and tribe oriented to consolidating power in nation states, and then consolidating power in continents. And we think in terms of continents when we think of power. And then eventually it's just evolution, that we need to think in terms of global power. And when we get on board as a globe, when we get on board as a planet, and we have a planetary society, an international globalist system, then and only then will we be able to, really comprehend and take our place in a galactic sense, in a cosmic sense, because I don't know. I mean, if you still think we're the only ones out there, and we're some kind of special, special creation here, human beings just on Earth. I mean, good luck with that. I'm not going to argue with anyone, but I think it's very likely that there's intelligent life out there, and that we're not going to be able to be invited to sit at those tables until we stop squabbling amongst ourselves and get on board as a planet. And this is the form it's going to take, is in the middle of all this economic disaster, in the middle of all this ecological catastrophe, and this is the 20-year cycle. We're looking at, in the next 20 years, we're looking at a movement towards stability, towards solidarity, towards a kind of security that Taurus represents. And we're going to be looking at a sort of system, a structure. Capricorn, we're going to be looking at a sort of global influence, a sort of broad philosophical religious influence that's indicated by Sagittarius. And we're going to be looking at the centrist approach to this, non-partisan, but centrist, unifying all of the squabbling parties that the cusp between Sag and Cap represents. And I want to encourage everybody to, understand that this has been a long time in the works. Again, that's what the South Node is here saying in the new moon with Mercury, that all of our thinking and all of our communicating about this might be like, oh, that's not a good idea. But this bed's been made, and long ago. The threads of fate have been woven here, and we've woven some bed sheets and made our bed. And now we're in this together. That's the point of this. So, I encourage everybody to just get connected to their community and get connected to their humanity and start to think about things, because this is where the world is going. Start to think about things outside of partisan boundaries. Start to think about things outside of nationalist boundaries. Start to think about things in terms of an evolution towards recognizing our place as sentient beings, conscious beings in the cosmos. And stop fighting each other for the scraps that the financial sector is throwing you, because 99% of people have next to nothing, and the 1% has chosen to address this as the Great Reset. So the more realistic we can get about this, the more empowered we're going to be, and the more we can see it as a necessary phase of evolution, the less we're likely to have psychological distortion and problems, and problems with the idea. The necessity of this is obvious from a couple angles. So, and the inevitability of it is, it's there for anyone with their eyes open. So, yeah, I disagree with people who have a pretty bright, rosy picture of all this based on the idea that the Great Conjunction is going to be in Aquarius. I think we're looking at the possibility of a movement towards a movement towards globalism, a movement towards a one world system, a movement towards transnational and international structure, social structure, financial structure. And we're already there financially, like all these people who are making these decisions, who are making the decisions that affect our money, your money, and definitely their money. These are internationalists. These are globalists. These are, and they have been for a long time now. I mean, if you study this, it's just evident. Like, oh yeah, so we're here in 2020, and this is the astrological expression of it. All right. So that was a lot, and I did insert a fair amount of my own opinion in there. You can take this or leave this. You can come to your own conclusions on this. A rosier picture of Capricorn and Sagittarius, like a best case scenario of Sag and Cap, cusp, great reset, would be balance. Again, talking across the aisles, resolving differences between progressive liberal, kind of progressive liberal thinking, and conservative, really entrenched conservative thinking. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some good here, and there's going to be some difficulty here. But I want to move on because in the interest of time, I don't want to keep you watching this video forever. The full moon is taking place in Capricorn across from Sag. And if you were watching earlier, I did mention the theme of truth, duality between truth and falsehood, taking the high road, needing to arrive at our own personal truth and needing to arrive at a resolution to distinguish, to discern between what's beneficial and what's detrimental, between what's medicinal and what's poisonous, between what's true and what's just isn't. There are some aspects to the moon. Uranus is making a close trine sextile, and this really could be a kind of a moment of truth, a sort of reckoning with everything that I just said, as Aquarius and Uranus have to do with the future. So Uranus here in Aries, we're sort of leaving behind, and Uranus in Aries signifies this with the church burnings. We're leaving behind a Judeo-Christian dominated superstitious worldview. Not to say that God isn't an actual thing, not to say that the universe isn't actually intelligent, not to say that anything about that, but to look at the church as an institution, back to 1226 and the Catholic Inquisition and how they consolidated that power and put those things everywhere, highest building in town and all that, every town. That era is ending. This is a changing of that guard. And there's likely to be a new Uranus, scientific, Uranus, futuristic, rational kind of guard coming to replace it. And this moon is just going to be about how we are with that, where we sit with that, And the moon here in Gemini, in dualistic, curious, information and communication oriented Gemini, is reflecting the light of a sun that through rolling conjunction is connected to all these bodies, to Mercury, to Pluto, to Saturn, to Jupiter, and just out of orb of the galactic center. So we're really in this new phase of expression, this new solar phase of expression, and it's going to be colored by all of this. Pluto, the transformation. Saturn, Jupiter, the heralding of a new economic, a new social paradigm. Mercury, our thought and our communication about it, and so all of this is relating to the sun. So the light that the moon is reflecting for this full moon is actually coming from a sun that's in rolling conjunction. It's a very powerful rolling conjunction. And the rulership of all this goes back to Saturn. The rulership of the moon in Gemini is Mercury's in Sag. The rulership of the sun in Sag, Pluto in Sag, all goes to Jupiter. Where's Jupiter? Capricorn. Who rules Capricorn? Saturn. Saturn's at home, and that's where the hierarchy stops. So Saturn is really ruling, and this is just the beginning of a kind of pile-up, if you will, in Capricorn, where Jupiter, Saturn, eventually Pluto, Mercury, the Sun, Venus will come around, and they'll all be moving through Capricorn. Jupiter and Saturn are going to be moving through Capricorn for quite a while. I don't know the dates. Catch me on Facebook on the Sidereal Astrology forum, or on Sidereal Revolution. And, I'm sure we'll be talking about the dates that all of this is going to be oriented to structural, conservative, austere, Saturnine Capricorn. There's going to be some gravity. There's going to be some structure and some law and order, folks. Capricorn is all about that. All about that. I want to move on. I've taken a lot of time, and this full moon isn't actually incredibly potent. And the waning moon in Virgo is interesting because Virgo is all about applied critical thinking. Virgo is really about discrimination wisdom, the wisdom of knowing the high from the low, the true from the false, the medicine from the poison. And in the waning quarter, we're looking back over the cycle, and we're looking back and we're taking it all in, we're processing it, and we're making way for the next lunar cycle. We're making way for that next new moon. So this will be a great time. The full moon in Gemini those are Mercury's stars, and the waning quarter moon in Virgo, the other stars attributed by resonance to Mercury, by rulership to Mercury. And so remember that Mercury was conjoined to the south node for the beginning of the lunar cycle and functionally eclipsed. So it could be a very mercurial time. We could be coming to terms with the past. We could be coming to terms with inevitable destiny and issues of freedom. Freedom is always a truth, and inevitable destiny also always true. And the marriage of those two, the cusp, if you will, or the interaction of those two, is our basic experience of life. So looking at the webs we've woven, the bed we've made, looking at how the past is coming to rear its head, and how in that famous line, we may be through with the past, but the past is almost never through with us. I mean, that's like a liberation state. That's like a state of true freedom when the past, when you've resolved your karmas and burnt and resolved and paid your debts, and you have freedom in life. This is a very rare state that 1% of 1% of 1% of people ever really accomplish. So functionally, this is about getting honest with ourselves, honest about the situation we're in, the choices we want to make, honest about, broadly, in opposition to Eris in Pisces, this is broadly about the spiritual dark side. Broadly about the shadow side of Pisces, and the denial and confusion and escapism that's part of that archetype, and the age of Pisces, the astrological age of Pisces that we're in, and that we'll be in for 700 more years. We have a while before the age of Aquarius. We have, and the age of Aquarius isn't going to save us. So all of this reconciling, all of this coming to terms with all of this. This is a great lunar cycle to do that in, and the moon will be well placed for that kind of examination and critical analysis before we move to the next new moon. So just to take a sneak peek, January 13th, this will be the first new moon of 2021, a new year. By all indications, a brighter, more hopeful looking year than 2020, although 2020 set the bar pretty low. I do have hope. I do have a lot of hope for 2021. And this new moon is happening in conjunction with Pluto and in pretty close square to Eris. We actually have a 13-minute square and a 1 degree 21 minute conjunction to Pluto. So the next new moon is functionally going to be part of the Pluto-Uranus square. And next month we'll take a look at the energies, Eris-Pluto square. And next month we'll take a look at the energies of Pluto and Eris, how they've manifested historically, how they've manifested during the time of this square, and what it means to start 2021 on the note of being part of that Pluto transformation through Eris, chaos, discord, disharmony, what it means to start 2021 as part of that cycle. Yes, my friends, I think that brings us to the end of this video. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. And I encourage you to set intentions, for this new moon about going into your own psyche. There's so much happening in the world, and these momentums, these waves are so much bigger than us. It's easy to feel disempowered. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. Please, please, please take this opportunity to heal yourself, to take the time, because the energies are there. The cosmos is helping you. It's like reaching out its hand, like, hey, but it's hard work to go into our shadow side, our pain, our negative karma, our traumas, and to reclaim our power, to claim the gold from that dragon, if you will, just to take a metaphor from this sort of like, kind of patriarchal expression of the hero's journey. What you want to do is make friends with the dragon. And this is what that book, this is what Sultramalleone's Feeding Your Demons is about coming to dialogue with our darker psychological aspects and learn what they want, what they need from us, and to eventually make friends with them. This isn't about slaying the dragon. This is about recognizing our dragons, our monsters, our demons as aspects of our own psyche, and coming into a wholeness through individuation, through bringing those into the fold, accepting them, loving those parts of ourself and ourself for going through any difficult experiences that we might have. And all of this will bring the stability of Taurus. This will bring the stability of Taurus. Doing the work of the dark alchemy brings us wealth, brings us treasure. This is where our treasure is hidden. It's guarded by monsters, psychologically speaking. So this can be a very powerful cycle if you align with it. And to that end, my friends, I hope that you're able to align with it very well. I hope that you're able to do fruitful work this month. And I hope in this cycle to release the third video of my fractal astrology, deep fractality and astrology series on the energy system, the energetic anatomy of the human body in the form of the traditional chakra system, how that relates to planets, talking a little bit about the journey of Kundalini in our lives, and what that kind of visionary energy represents and how to understand it and tap into it with greater agency. All of that would fit really well with a new moon on Ras Al Hag. So that's my intention. I hope to see you for that. I will see you next month for another lunar video. And as always, thank you.